Nate and I are about to board a plane to join a 7-day cruise entitled Adriatic Splendours that will visit Italy and Croatia.
On the Dreamliner, 2-hour flight to Naples.
There are two big problems today. One is that the weather forecast predicts rain all day.
Arriving at the boat.
The Explorer 2.
The other problem is that the Explorer 2 has been infected by the norovirus, and it has to be totally disinfected before we can board. So Nate and I take a walk, complete with hand luggage, into Naples, rather than sit in the port and wait for 5 hours. So here we go. Unfortunately, no time to visit Pompeii, the reason why we chose this cruise. But let's have a quick look at Naples. The first place we see is Castel Nuovo, the new castle. It's a medieval castle located in the city centre, in front of the municipal piazza and the city hall. Dating back to 1279, it's one of the main landmarks of the city, and in past times a royal seat for kings of Naples, Aragon, and Spain. Not far away, the Galleria Umberto I, and as the rain came down, we explored the city centre. The magnificent church of San Francesco di Paola. With a facade reminiscent of the Pantheon in Rome. We didn't stop as we had little time and wanted to visit the restaurant where the margherita pizza was born.
It's raining, but beautiful time here in the rain. Just going to have a pizza.
Chef Raffaele Esposito of Pizzeria Brandi and his wife created a pizza resembling the colors of the Italian flag. Red tomato, white mozzarella, and green basil. They named it after the Queen. And this is the Pizzeria Brandi, and we've ordered a margherita. And we're enjoying a great location. Inside, the wood-fired pizza oven. This is Raphael. Buffalo mozzarella and tomato. You've noticed the Italian flag colors again. And here she is, thick crust family style. Now consider this, they ate pizza like this here 100 years earlier, so it's just the name that was new. So here we are on a rainy day, doing the thing that die-hard tourists do, making the most of it. Here, by the way, they use the right flour, the right mozzarella, the right virgin olive oil, the right oven, and the price is right too. Believe me, the food was excellent. The setting, perfect. so we strolled back to the ship. Fortunately, the rain was light, so we didn't get very wet. I should have liked to have more time here, but had things gone well, we should have gone to the ruins of Pompeii. Certainly not the usual start to a Mediterranean cruise. One crew member later told me, in all his days of cruising, this was the worst weather he'd seen in the Med. Finally, aboard the ship, we were definitely impressed. The atrium. We were soon on our way. Next stop, Messina, Sicily, then Dubrovnik in Croatia, Ancona, Italy, and Venice, and finally Split in Croatia. This is gonna be fun. Arriving in Messina, Sicily. It appears the rain is following us. This is crazy weather for the Med in summer. The port of Messina is right next to the city, so we disembarked and walked over. Our usual habit of finding a good cup of coffee was allayed by the fact that the coffee port on the ship had great coffee. Messina is known as the city without a history, as it was almost completely destroyed by an earthquake and massive tsunami in 1908. Some buildings, including the Catholic Church of the Announcement of St. Mary, survived, though clearly not completely. The fun train in the rain is one way to keep dry. We headed to Piazza del Duomo, Cathedral Square. On the hill above, another church dedicated to St. Mary overlooks the city. But the main attraction is the clock tower of the cathedral. Down here in the square, we all await noon. The bell tower holds the Messina astronomical clock, one of the largest astronomical clocks in the world, built in 1933. The belfry's mechanically animated statues perform every day at noon, and everyone's gathered to see it.
The astronomical clock just went on, we watched it, and now I'm trying to find my father.
Wonderful place, very nice place, enjoyed that.
Inside, the cathedral is beautiful, with an ornately decorated wooden ceiling. And 28 tall Gothic columns, making it an impressive sight. The cathedral also containing a massive pipe organ. There's a beautiful diorama of rural life as part of a nativity scene in here. A kind of genre diorama, if there is such a thing. That's my definition. Depictions of life, in this case, on the day Jesus was born. And life goes on all around. People having a chat, selling some bread. Even the wise men are there. The shepherds, the neighbors. And a few heavenly beings. Fascinating. Jesus born into the midst of everyday lives. Powerful.
Well, it's been raining, but we still had a very nice time looking around the cathedral and one or two little parts here. Wish we had more time, but still an enjoyable few minutes.
Actually, we were only given 2 hours here because of the tight schedule. As it turned out, the ship's tour bus didn't make it back in time, and we sat on the ship for 2 hours waiting for it, wishing we could have spent more time in the city. So we missed out on Pompeii and Messina. The Latin inscription under the statue of the Virgin Mary, "I bless you and your city," is a quote from a letter the Virgin Mary sent to the population of Messina in the year 42. According to popular legend, the Virgin Mary presented a letter to the people who visited her in Palestine in 42 AD. Apparently, the actual letter written in Hebrew is in the cathedral. So alas, we spent more time waiting for the ship to leave than we did in the city. Eventually, we were sailing away to the city of Dubrovnik, my 4th visit, but a wonderful place. and we're really looking forward to it. And especially praying for sunshine.
Tonight is the captain's banquet, and so we're all dressed up. It's always a good meal.
And so we sailed around the foot of Italy and up to Croatia. It's a beautiful summer morning, and we're heading up the Adriatic Sea towards Dubrovnik in Croatia. Now just imagine you're here with us. Meanwhile, we have breakfast and prepare for a great day. We're sitting in the stern of the ship, full English breakfast. Egg, bacon, sausage, mushrooms, tomato, ham, but no kippers. But toast, juice, and illy coffee with cream. Followed by another coffee that we picked up in the coffee pot that we will enjoy on the stern.
Sitting on the back of the boat and having a cup of coffee and watching the beautiful view off the deck.
Every now and then, like right now, as I watch the world go by, I get that good to be alive feeling. I love it. I try to replicate it for all who get to appreciate my films. Then putting on top of the world, though a little windy, make that very windy. There are times in the Med that we get beautiful sunshine, warm weather, and a cool breeze that is delightful. Well, sometimes the breeze is very breezy, so to speak. That's why the pools on a ship are relatively sheltered. The putting green happens to be just about the highest level on the ship. What's happening now, you might ask? Well, we're arriving in Dubrovnik, which is just east out of the picture, as we pass the lighthouse. Many people have come up to see the arrival. The coast here reminded me of Kotor in Montenegro. The port of Dubrovnik is west of the city. brings back memories of my very first cruise with my sister and Rachel, when this is where we joined the ship. Croatia has to be one of my favorite destinations in the Med. They have some really beautiful cities and many quiet destinations that are a delight to visit. Even before we disembark, we're welcomed by a couple of dolphins swimming in the bay. Majestic creatures. Half the passengers are watching the dolphins play. The other half are watching as we enter the dock. Under the expert supervision of the captain. Now it's time to explore the historic city of Dubrovnik. I can assure you, you're in for a wonderful treat today. From memorable scenes of Game of Thrones, such as the King's Landing, to a walk around ancient walls that have protected the city over the centuries. Come with me and enjoy it. Once more unto the breach, dear friends, once more. Dubrovnik has certainly had its share of battles. Usually the big guns against this small enclave. As recent as 1992, it was bombarded. Today, Dubrovnik Old Town is considered to be one of the world's most perfectly preserved medieval cities. When viewed from above, it's almost unreal. Just look at that. Though I've visited several times before, it's always a thrill to enter its walls. As usual, a beautiful Mediterranean summer's day. Surprisingly, there's much more than historic sites and Game of Thrones locations on offer. Canoeing and even a submarine ride are two of the options. Perhaps a walk to the top of the ancient walls, or a cable car ride to the top of the hill. So once more, we explore. Dating back as far as the 7th century, when it was known as Ragusa. It was later ruled by Byzantines, Venetians, the French under Napoleon, the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and Yugoslavia. A statue of the patron saint St. Blaise adorns the pile gate, and he appears to bless all who enter. The old limestone city certainly looking every bit its age. The tourist throng today swelled by the arrival, as usual, of 2 or 3 cruise ships. The Stradon, the main road that connects the 2 main gates, being the most popular destination. So Nate and I took a look. This is where some memorable scenes from the Game of Thrones were shot. Fascinating alleyways abound. They've been here for centuries. So our walk across the city is punctuated by side trips to see intriguing sights. Walk along the Straden, take a look up historic alleys, charming little cafes. It certainly charges the imagination. George Bernard Shaw was also impressed when he visited the city in 1929 and said, "If you want to see heaven on earth, come to Dubrovnik." The Baroque Church of St. Blaise. The clock tower is next to the Sponza Palace, where historic manuscripts are kept. It's built in the Gothic and Renaissance styles. The arch is the second major gateway out of the city. The palace having intricate decorations and ornate windows. The cathedral. According to legend, Richard the Lionheart, King of England, came ashore on the island of Lokrum after being shipwrecked in 1192. In gratitude, he gave 100,000 ducats to help build the Assumption Cathedral. The arches here are the entrance to the city museums. Historic buildings ubiquitous and tourists plethoric. The architectural beauty of the city is stunning. Inside the walls of the city is like going back in time, except for the tourists.
It really is a magical place here.
We kept walking and came to the harbour. Al fresco dining a great attraction, as diners sit and watch life in the bay. Nate too is getting his pictures. Others wait to take boat rides. This is a submarine. I remember well my first sight of this historic harbour and the reaction I had to it. A thoroughly enjoyable experience. I love boat trips, but being on a cruise ship tends to satisfy the need, so I'm happy just to watch. We decided on a drink and a snack in this great location. Prawns it is, and tasty they were. Then another stroll. Next we shall take a walk on top of the walls, all the way around the city, 1.2 miles, with splendid views overlooking the ancient streets from above. On my last visits, we didn't ascend the walls, but I felt we missed out. So Nate and I decided to do it. They actually reach a height of 83 feet in places, and encircle the whole city. Up we go. We first ascend over the Pile Gate and immediately get good views. As we survey the city, we can easily imagine what it was like centuries ago. The salt trade and shipping made Dubrovnik rich and a great power in times past. I'm amazed at how little the city has changed over the centuries. The limestone walls and red tile roofs, and no trace of modern intrusions. Once known as Ragusa, this maritime republic rivaled Venice. For centuries this was one of the world's great seafaring cities. From these heights we can clearly see how the Stratum, the main street of Dubrovnik, divides the city into two. At each end is a bell tower. These walls, first built in the 7th century, and the present walls in the 14th and 15th centuries, still stand strong and firm. To walk around these ramparts is a great experience, but one gets a fantastic view over the city from above that doubles the delight. There are few cities in the world that are more visually stunning than Dubrovnik. It's an amazing experience to walk around the walls, especially as we get a different aspect of the city. At one time, every visitor to the city was required to bring a stone in order to further strengthen the defenses. Many places give breathtaking views over the city that has remarkably changed little over the centuries. It's difficult to believe that less than 30 years ago, 2/3 of the buildings of this city were bombed and damaged by the Yugoslav army. But it's still here. Time for a drink. Now walk with me. Let me be your eyes. The enigma of history. When John Lennon penned his song, Imagine, he challenges people to imagine things that are not and never have been. I like to imagine things that are not, but were. So what happened here? The tools of our imagination of life in Dubrovnik, being historical accounts of life here, and walking where it happened, observing and visualizing, seeing with the mind what happened here. The ghost of Ragusa passed. This is surely one of those places that stir up the imagination. What did it look like in its heyday, with a population of 5,000 living within these city walls, and great sailing ships entering this harbor? Its motto being, "Liberty is not sold for all the gold in the world." It was quite hot, and the 1.2 miles was actually quite tiring, whilst at the same time exhilarating. There were places for refreshments with great views. Halfway around, I had to admit this was, for me, the highlight of the visit, though at times I felt that I should like to be down there. Even below what's down there. Or simply relaxing down there. Up here, however, the city itself now does the bombarding of the mind. Aesthetic perception opening the window on a great experience, though the underlying imagination plays its part. So if you walk the walls, perceive and imagine. Be stirred, not shaken. These walls can't speak, but these pictures are worth 1,000 words. So perceive and imagine. Give it a try. Now walk with me. Let me be your eyes. Next time, we're gonna see the city from above. Last stop is to ascend the hill to get the magnificent view from above. We take a stroll over to the main entrance. The only problem being that the cable car was not running. Apparently, it was closed for non-payment of concession fees. It reopened about 3 months later. In the meantime, everybody lost, except for the taxi drivers that took tourists like us to the summit. The roughly €30 per head that we saved by not taking the cable car more than paid for the taxi, so we're all happy. The views from the top in all directions are magnificent. The hills over there are in Bosnia. The hills in the far distance here, Montenegro. But the views over the city are more than impressive, capturing not just a great sight, but insights into history. The harbours, the forts, the walls, all as it was. Not much imagination necessary. It hasn't changed that much. The cathedrals, churches, and 100 red-roofed buildings. The view so captivating that we just stood and marveled. Nate did a FaceTime with Amy and Ben and Bella and showed them what we were looking at.
You did say Dubrovnik, and you just said Dubrovnik.
A timeless city through which, in times gone by, all the trade routes passed and ships were built right in the city. Looking down, we see the old and new as the cable car stanchion mimics the fort. The island of Lochram, where King Richard was shipwrecked 800 years ago. A really enchanting visit where our imaginations and senses were constantly caressed. The city to this day standing proud. So we make our way back to the ship. We arrive to the welcome of the dolphins. We leave as the sun says farewell, and I have a wonderful feeling as I gaze into the sunset. After sailing northwest across the Adriatic, we arrived in the Italian port of Ancona, the present city founded by Greek settlers from Syracuse in about 387 BC, who gave it its name. Ancona stems from the Greek word ankon, meaning elbow, as the harbour was originally protected by a promontory shaped like an elbow. We begin to explore. It appears there's a wedding in the church of Santa Maria. We then walked through the narrow medieval streets to the Piazza del Plebiscito and the church of San Domenico. The local government offices are here, and the clock tower. It's a pretty place, but the weather is dull and cloudy. The statue is Pope Clement XII. There's a museum here too. The interior of the church was beautiful. We had read that this was an interesting city full of fascinating alleyways and medieval buildings. Cities built on a hillside tend to be like this. Typical guardians over the entrances. Impressive buildings. As we ascend, we get great views over the harbour. Our ship had docked in the port right next to the city, so we walked off the ship and were immediately in the centre of town. From up here we can see the Arch of Trajan, a marble structure that is one of the finest surviving Roman monuments. It was built in the year 114 and named in honor of Trajan, the emperor who had made the harbour. It's still an iconic landmark for ships approaching the port. At the top of the hill, the cathedral, dedicated to Judas Syriacus, and completed in 1189. Built of grey stone in the Romanesque style. The facade has a Gothic entrance. It's actually built on the ruins of an ancient pagan temple dedicated to the goddess Aphrodite. Indeed, an impressive building. There's a legend that the painting of Mary, Queen of All Saints, has eyes that have been seen moving. In 1797, during the conquest of Ancona, Napoleon seized the painting and other sacred objects. But he then personally witnessed the miracle and returned everything to the cathedral. There's a crypt below the cathedral where rests the visible remains of Saint Cyriaco, the patron saint of the city. His remains were transferred to Ancona in the 5th century, but there's an exciting legend that states that his body is said to have been propelled in a coffin off the coast of Ancona and was pulled from the reeds by sailors with ropes. Afterwards, Nate got busy planning our next stop and admiring the magnificent church.
The sun has finally arrived, but it's been a very fascinating place. Alleyways and looking around the cathedral here has been a lot of fun.
The adjacent Roman amphitheatre was built in the Augustan period, late 1st century BC, early 1st AD, overlooking the harbour. It had more than 20 terraces on 3 layers and is estimated to have been able to accommodate up to 10,000 spectators. We were able to view it from the road, but we were certainly disappointed that it was not open to visitors. It was surely the most interesting part of the city. Places like this cost a lot to excavate and restore, and it would have been wonderful to contribute via an entrance fee and walk around these 2,000-year-old ancient ruins. We then strolled back through the city to the port, this time in the sunshine. Looking forward to Venice tomorrow and Split in Croatia the day after.